Aloha. Before I start, apologies for the sound outside in the background. And my voice is a little rough right now, but nothing to apologize for, I guess. Just might sound a little different, but I had to do this video now because it'd been weighing on me for a while. In reference to this PC culture, that basically the algorithms of what PC actually is. So we know what PC culture is. And then you have liberal culture, then you have Republican culture. But PC culture is a different thing because it can be used to describe the defense mechanisms of the system overall, just as the system itself victimizes itself in order to go to war. It creates 9/11 in order to create the war on terrorism so it can make a profit off of war, supposedly on terrorism, and make a profit off of war, and put military bases everywhere and control the poppy fields, which control China. Once you understand Afghanistan's relationship to China through the poppy fields, and once you understand the oil relationship with control overall, an illusion. The biggest thing that keeps us from questioning the credibility and the benevolence of this so-called civilization, even that word civilization is another version of PC culture, in a sense that there's nothing civil about this world. We're living in a world where there's more focus on the distractions from the truth, the distractions from the deepest realities that add up to all of the poverty, all of the war, all of the high profile crime. Like, the biggest gangsters that are out there are the bankers, and then you go all the way up until the mind controllers who create the system of banking, the system of control, the system of colonialism. And I just watched a couple days ago allegedly Dave's video about, and I want to thank him with my voice for doing that video. And you know, I know how difficult it is to speak on such issues, and especially live like that. I mean, because he did a really, really good job of maintaining the course, maintaining the structure and the focus, and you know what was at the heart of the matter. Because what was really getting to me, and you can look into the comment section of that video, the thing that was getting to me was I mean, not really getting to me, but like overall it always kind of gets to me, but now I'm getting used to it because I can see what it is the style of approach that people have when they're presented with information that challenges their comfort zones or their belief structures, or the belief structures of the society, which are accepted. And if you are more grounded in the version of you that is manipulated by society, then you will be offended by the truths that uproot the very nature of this destructive society. So once that happens, in order to maintain the happy, freedom-loving, just obviously just for a fairy tale, the happy-go-lucky sort of Western civilization, for people to be told that that's just the most bullshit thing ever, and there's so much more you're so much deeper than the Constitution. You're so much deeper than the politics, like the human experience. Even flat Earth, that's what gets me so much, is like even flat, and especially flat Earth. The knowledge of this information is so much deeper than what's presented by the loudest mouths that are out there, like the biggest microphones that are out there. And that biggest microphone alchemy is designed, like I said in the beginning, it has the same mechanism as, or it has the same effect as this PC culture and this plausible deniability that exists in the very nature of the education system, when the education system only goes back to the 15th or 16th century, when history is completely sold to you upside down and reversed. Every single day, these are the kids, these are the future generations. They're being manipulated to hate themselves. They're being manipulated to not question the system, not question authority, when authority itself is the question. Authority, the question of authority, when people call themselves truthers, you're talking about the hiding of truth. So when you're talking about the hiding of truth, you're talking about the authority figures who have developed systems to hide truth. Flat Earth is a part of that truth that has been hidden. Heliocentrism is a part of, it's another version of PC culture, global warming, Hollywood celebrities, materialism. All of these are designed to make you think, act, and feel a certain way. But the majority of people are so locked into this certain form of learning, a style of expression, a style of language, a style of truth. That's what politically correct culture is. It's a style of truth that has nothing to do with truth, and has everything to do with distracting you from the deeper layers of truth that allow you to empower yourself. This is why I take the perspectives that I take on flat Earth and the whole flat Earth community. This shit is real. Like, this shit is, when you grow up surrounded by a society that is like 3 or 4 or 5 generations ahead of you in relation to mind control, that's a hell of a thing to be like faced with. And when you're faced with it as a child, when you see those mechanisms as a child, and then when you're when you're shared the information about the system with your friends and family as a child, and you get it, like you get it at 5, 6, and 7 years old, and it stays with you for your entire life. That shit is fucking really, that's some heavy things to be accumulating over life, over time. And to see the same sort of, see the same alchemy being used as you're an adult against your peers, your friends and family. See, when you're a kid, it's not that big of a deal, because you have your friend, you have your family there to protect you. It's their responsibility. It's their responsibility to make sure that you're okay. So, and you're knowledgeable. So this is why the system creates the education system, to be the distributor of that responsibility. So the system itself creates a responsibility. It creates a microwaved version of the responsibility that is all your own. You, your family, your ancestors are responsible for holding these stories and maintaining this the knowledge that keeps people alive. The knowledge that like in your soul, like, you know, like it keeps people alive. See, like this fake ass shallow shit, like it's not about 9/11 truth. It's not about the globalists. It ain't about reptilians. It ain't about chemtrails. It ain't about anything out there that people are fucking yelling every single day about. It's about the authority figures who have created this system to where you're distracted by it. You don't give a shit about, like, I mean, there's so much out there. I understand. I empathize with the fact that information needs to be shared. But the reason why I seem to come down so hard on it is because I went through that and had realized that it does no good. In fact, it inflames the system when you focus all your energy on when you focus the majority of your energy on how bad something is rather than how great you are. That doesn't mean to say, you know, how don't be knowledgeable, don't acknowledge the system and the systems that are designed to destroy us. Not at all. In fact, it's more to say that the more you get into understanding how that alchemy works against us, the easier it will be to love yourself, to empower yourself and your friends and family, because the design of this alchemy is to weigh you down. I was just watching what was that? Anyway, I'll get into that later. Heliocentrism is designed to lock you off from your ability to love yourself, your ability to empower yourself, your ability to have any meaning and purpose in this reality. You don't need to dress it up with connecting to a creator and all that other stuff. I mean, that's a part of it too. But when you really get down to it, and you're walking around every day, and you wake up in the morning, it's you. It's you there, and the experience that presents itself to you, and how you interact and engage in that experience. Yes, we have the so-called demons that are going to surround us to keep us down, but you're also equally imbalanced with the angels that are going to be around you. Energetically speaking, you're there. Yeah, like you don't have to have any kind of labels to explain what all this stuff is if it's already a part of who and what you are. That's the thing that we get sidetracked from a lot of the times, is that when you get so enveloped in the system, you don't really challenge yourself to have the responsibility to do anything, because your doingness is enveloped by exposing the doingness of the authority figures. But that's a one-sided form of truth. It's a one-sided approach to not only the truth of society or the collective or humanity, but your truth. Your truth isn't enveloped in exposing chemtrails and all this other stuff. That's just a phase that you're in. You can't do that forever. Just imagine, like, you can't do that forever. I mean, if you I don't want to say you can't do that forever, because you can. People can do that forever. Well, the point is, if you do that forever, like when I expand it out that far, it's easy to see, oh, there is something more. There's something else out there that I could be getting into. And that's what I really wanted to thank allegedly Dave for, is getting into the nuts and bolts of the systems of authority that have, and I don't think I mentioned the video. The video that I'm talking about is how Great Britain became, or great, and how Britain became Britain, or something like that. You know what I'm talking about. If you look up allegedly Dave, you'll see that video. It's a British flag there. Point being is that there's another layer of truth. There's these layers of truth, just like there's layers of people, and those layers of people mirror the layers of truth. Like an individual's truth is going to be based upon their experience. That's why I said in the last video, these so-called truthers in the flat earth community and any of these conspiracy truther communities, they're going to share their version of truth with you. And of course, if you mutter anything, it's going to be your version of whatever it is. That's obvious. But when you get into the understandings, and overstandings of creating systems that develop internal authority over your soul, over your mind, over your body, this is what mainstream religions are. This is why mainstream religions have to create this idea of guilt, like Catholic guilt. It's a magic. It's an alchemy that tricks you into it. It's just like the mainstream reality puts out this, like PC culture. You can see like the overly nice culture that's out there. This is a part of that too. This is a part of the PC culture. Is this overly nice, just like so nice and so caring and so this and so that. This is what the infrastructure of the New Age community is, basically. It's like, oh yeah, everything is so nice, so amazing. And what that does is it sets you up to, like, it sets you up to shut you down and suck you into the world that they need you to focus on. Because the world that they need you to focus on is the universe that they've created around themselves. So that universe, no different than heliocentrism. What does heliocentrism do for the hearts and minds and the souls of the people who continue to allow this world to continue the way it is? It needs you to fight it. When you look at this protest, this orchestrated protest environment with the gun control stuff, you can see how the system needs. See, they tried it with triggering people with Black Lives Matter, and it's still going on. I mean, literally, they're shooting people like Philando Castile, Eric Garner, Oscar Grant, Tamir Rice, like all these people. It's desensitizing you. It becomes a thing. It becomes a pop culture thing. And just like, excuse me, just like PC culture affects you a certain way, pop culture affects you a certain way, and they're actually the same thing. Pop culture is PC culture. And it's this whole nicety thing that's designed to soften you up. It's designed to make you think, act, and feel like, you know, everything is just fine the way it is. It's what it really boils down to is the difference of people who are saying the system is just broken, so we just need to fix it. And people saying, no, the system was not broken. It was designed to be this way. And the individuals who designed it, they're still maintaining those mind control programs on the people today. So it's not broken. It's very efficient. It's extremely efficient. And by fighting it the way it needs you to fight it, you're not only keeping it alive, excuse me, but you're doing the work for them. You're doing the work for it. And just imagine, like they said in the Matrix movie, your batteries. So your emotional body is like charging your rechargeable batteries. So in order for you to gain power within yourself as the battery, you have to gain some kind of knowledge within the system. And then once you gain that knowledge, that energy is transmuted into an energy that will empower the system. This is what these orchestrated protests are, Occupy, even the Civil Rights Act. Even if it starts out like grassroots, if it starts out by the people, it still gets manipulated to be a certain thing, because usually in the past, protests and movements, a lot of them are still based upon asking the authority figures to change. When, if you want to take it to like the extremes of like really seeing what's going on, and this is what pisses me off so much about the flat earth like mainstream community, is that like they're aware of the depths of evil that this system is about, but still cater to it in a sense that they're waiting. They're waiting on what? What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? If truth is the authority, and you don't need an authority figure to validate your truth, then the depths of truth are ultimately your responsibility. It's not going to come. You don't need validation from authority figures. This is why the depths of evil, this system is based upon the depths of evil. The people in the so-called truth community are aware of the pedophilia rings, the human trafficking, the sex trafficking that's going on in the politics, that's going on in Hollywood, that's going on in the church, and how they're all interconnected. You don't have to you don't have to write a bunch of books. You don't have to make a bunch of videos. You don't have to do a bunch of research for the rest of your life to say, oh fuck, there's something wrong with that. And if the system is based upon hiding that information, then what system are you actually catering to? The mainstream media has no interest in you. See, let me get into this plausible deniability so I can get into the little slides. I'm just going to talk about those real quick, because this plausible deniability, how I'm seeing it, is similar to this. It's part of this PC culture. It's like you can talk about certain things. Like I said in the last video, you can talk about Belu the alien. You can talk about people who claim to have psychic abilities. You can talk about chemtrails. You can talk about this. You can talk about that. But when you talk about the very nature of the system that created the diseases, like if you want to go back to the beginning of a chapter, I mean, you can label it whatever you want. You can call it a chapter in the book. You can call it the book. You can call it the series of books. Whatever it is that you want to call it, you're going to call it based upon your level of consciousness. What I'm saying is that we have to maintain the responsibility for expanding our perspectives to not trap ourselves in this egotistical version of truth, which is very limited in nature. This is why people in so-called truther communities, and even in the flat earth so-called community, this is why they can't talk about this stuff. I heard Mark and Patricia in a live stream when they were talking about allegedly Dave's video. It's like, oh, it's controversial. No, that ain't fucking controversial. It's fucking true. It's the truth. It's controversial for you soft-ass motherfuckers who just allowing this shit to be. Ain't controversial about shit. And when you look at like a channel like mine, if you say a video like that, one little video is controversial, then what the hell do you think about my channel? Like, I've been going off on that same perspective for a long time. I didn't get into the details. It's not as professional as he did it. Mine is more of a freestyle. But that, even that mentality, that response of, oh yeah, I saw it's pretty controversial. And even that, you can learn a lot from people's body language. You can learn a lot from reactions from people. And that PC culture, plausible deniability, is the biggest weapon that's out there, because like I said, it's the people that are going to allow these authority figures to do whatever it is that they're going to do. If the authority figures are still if the authority figures are aware that you are vesting all of your life, your whole movement, your whole truth on whether or not the system changes, they got you by the balls. There's no see, this is what I explained in the shift between getting out of the Occupy movement and what I explained as the psychological warfare, and moving into the spiritual warfare, which is the internal warfare, the war that we don't even realize is going on a lot of the times, the war that's existing in your subconscious, the war that exists in your child's mind, the war that exists in the energy of you creating a baby, like the energy of you creating a family. Like you're installing systems of life, and these systems of life are tainted by destructive equations that have existed for so many generations. And that's why I said only the particular truths that you choose to take and run with are going to be based upon, like, when you share that truth, you're also sharing a part of yourself. Like, a lot of people don't realize this. Like, when you're sharing your truth, you're sharing like your experience, your story, like what matters to you. And this new, because this internet, this YouTube thing, this is a very new thing. It's a new thing in a sense that you're developing parts of personalities, parts of character, parts of interaction where it hasn't happened before. So you're going to have side effects that affect people positively and affect people negatively. And a lot of the things that are going to affect people to the extremes of the negative are going to be hidden underneath the extremes of the positive. I'll say that again because that's the infrastructure of this entire video and all the videos I've been talking about, the new age and all that other stuff. The very nature of the things that are positive, I don't know if I'm messing up now. The things that are going to affect you negatively are usually going to be hidden in the most positive storylines, in the most positive movements, in the most so-called positive frames of thought, because the system knows that positive reinforcement is the best way to control people. This is what the so-called capitalistic system is. This is what so-called democracy is. It's positive reinforcement and then you have the negative reinforcement for certain groups of people. And in order to have that, see, and this is one thing that I wanted to add to allegedly Dave's video. Not in a sense to add it like it wasn't there, but it added in a sense that this is my perspective of it all. Most of his perspectives in that video log back into the idea that this is based upon bloodlines and not race, which to the majority of how I'm feeling my intuition, I believe that's ultimately true. The thing is, we can't allow ourselves to push to the side, because yes, it's the race and all that stuff was made up as a mechanism to control people in order to hide the bloodlines. But to deny the fact, and I'm not saying that he denies this fact, I'm just saying that I want to emphasize this fact. To deny the fact that race isn't as impactful, or isn't as it hasn't been used as an extreme measure to control people, would be a misstep. It's an alchemy. So if that alchemy exists, then we have to acknowledge that it exists. Not only that, but you have to acknowledge and understand how it's affected people. So yes, we can anchor ourselves in the interpretation, the understandings, and overstandings that there's a small group of people, and to trace all the way back to bloodlines that actually surpasses the idea of race. And race is just a way to control, like, the peasants, like that's a truth. That's a known truth. At the same time, where I'm coming from is that just as race was used and is used to hide the story of the bloodlines, race is also used inside the people to be the defensive mechanisms, the soldiers to hide that truth. And a lot of the ways that truth is hidden is from a lot of these distractions out there that we call truth, that we call the new age. Like I said earlier, the devil, the evil, the ultimate evil isn't going to present itself to you in a demon costume. It's going to present itself to you as an angel, as something, wonderful. But it's a parasite. It's a vampire. It's designed to destroy you. It needs you to vest your positive energy in its negative existence. I mean, if you want to go into like opposites attract and so on and so forth, it's another way to see that. So, I mean, this is known, like I said, with the protests and all that other stuff. You're talking about the system of evil, the so-called civilization of evil that exists out there. I'm not even going to go into this plausible deniability. You guys already know. You've read it already. But this plausible deniability is what's actually keeping the evil afloat. And it's so effective to where you have people who are so comfortable with talking about this, these blood sacrifices and this evil, this pedophilia rings, the chemtrails, the water, the food, the mind control programs, the crime, the everything, the drugs, the guns, the war. People are so desensitized and so bogged down by the idea of this reality that we've generated this artificial foundation, and you plant your roots in this artificial foundation of so-called truth, but it's like the difference between the grass roots and the tree roots. If we're talking about getting into the infrastructure of this synthetic tree of life that's designed to parasite off of the life force of the people, grassroots are not going to do shit for that. In fact, Grassroots are going to be the main distractor from you being able to see and get to the depths of the roots of that tree. So this is why all of these grassroots movements are being promoted. You have, I mean, you can look around everywhere. Look in all the politics, obviously, the New Age community, flat Earth. This ain't tree roots stuff. I mean, it says it just like the same way that people talk about the destruction, the distraction that exists, the ultimate evil, but don't really get to the depths of the beginnings of it, the authority, don't really make that their... See, the closest we get to that are these Christians, these flat earth Christians who, end their videos with, follow Jesus or, come back to the Bible or whatever it is. And then that's it. It's empty. So even your so-called positive... What the hell is that? Your so-called positive the positive things in your life are still gift wrapped to you by the systems of authority that have interwoven mind control programs within self-destructive mind control programs in the system that you think is supposed to be enlivening your spirit and bring you together. So it does. You get you think you're maxing out and enlivening your spirit and awakening your soul and being something new and alive. But if you base all of your life and all of your energy in the idea that somebody else created for you, then you're going to max out at the limitations that they've created for you. So this is what Western society is. This is what PC culture is. This is what all of the storylines that are avoided by this plausible deniability. Like, how many times can you talk about 9/11 and all this other stuff that's happening on stolen land? We're talking about a dream within a dream. 9/11 is a dream within a dream. The Native Americans are still alive. The indigenous people are still alive. The stories never died. They just told you they died. And they desensitized you from empathizing with their storyline so that you can buy into the dream within a dream. So the dream within a dream mechanisms that are used to keep you from going into the deeper layers of the foundations of the original dream is fear, destruction, and playing your emotional bodies, playing your heartstrings that keep this system alive, that keep it afloat. So this soft, politically correct, sort of fluffy, light approach to something like flat earth or the illusion of heliocentrism is another form of that. It's the ultimate destruction. It's the ultimate. And then people are like, oh no, these are just people like, excuse me. Like, no, I told you that in all these other videos, it's not going to be the people that are dressed in the demon costumes that are going to do anything to you. What's keeping the system afloat is the people who think they're doing amazing stuff, but they're doing amazing stuff within the bubble of self-destructive authority figures. When you don't break or pop that bubble and get into the infrastructure of the system that they created in order to create mind control programs for you, you'll never get into it. It's just like the saying of, you're never going to be able to defeat a certain level of consciousness with the same level of consciousness that created the problem in the first place. You're never going to be able to get to make any kind of forward progress if you're constantly using the tools and the mechanisms and the storylines of the same level of consciousness that created the mind control programs in the first place. You're going to max out. And this is why these so-called movements don't go anywhere. This is why Alex Jones, he's not going to do anything. He's already like TYT politics, they're limited by the system. Alex Jones is limited by Trump. He's limited by, all these systems that are designed to make you think, act, and feel a certain way. But your maximum potential is limitless. This is why your dreams are kept from you. This is why your subconscious version of reality, your balance is within this reality. The relationship between the conscious and the subconscious is a dance. It's a harmony. And when you are told only one side of the story, then it doesn't only disconnect you from that side of yourself, but when there's an intent behind that to control you, it empowers the individuals or the program that created the original storyline. So it's like exponential destructive growth. And the individuals who think that they're doing something of a positive nature are, but only to a certain degree. And that degree is based upon their own self-destruction. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know how many ways I could say it or how many times I have to say it, but your biggest enemy is going to be the ones that are telling you like, oh no, everything is okay. They're softening it up. What do you think politicians do? That's what they're for. What are Hollywood actors doing? They're softening your relationship to truth. They're softening your relationship to the authority. Same thing goes for the education system. What do you think it's actually doing to you and your kids? It's softening you up. So that's why when I saw something like Flat Earth and I saw this like mainstream approach to this as if this was a fucking comic book or some kind of cartoon, it was really off-putting. I left that shit in the New Age community. And when you get enveloped by the desensitization programs that, I mean, it's easy to get enveloped by that. And this is like another good example of this is I just lost my train of thought when I changed this. Anyway, I'll get it back. It's the amount of truth that's out there that keeps people from going to the depths of truth. And the system knows this, because if you're surrounded by an amount of truth that is so overwhelming, you're going to, that's what it was. You're going to create another version of yourself that is just based upon that amount of truth, like what you have in your backpack. So your backpack creates another person, but it's not a backpack and it's not who you are. It's just what you have now. But the thing is, you're consistently growing, you're consistently learning. And like I was going to say, in reference to the New Age community, people vest themselves. They create another version of themselves based upon the community that they're within. So they get into the New Age community, and simply because the world that they used to be a part of is so different than the world that they are now a part of, they pride themselves. And when you pride yourself and you're comfortable in a community, then you create another version of yourself. The thing is, like I said, these stepping stones are used. People turn these stepping stones into islands, and they stay on that island forever. And this is what the New Age community is about. It's about staying on an island. Flat Earth is an island. It's only going to go as far as the people take it from the internal observations of what it is. Not from fighting the NASA, not from yelling at the politics. You think they give a fuck about your little ass fucking voice yelling at? They don't give a shit about you. They don't care. You're laughable. And people are like, oh, we're doing it. No, you're laughable. Literally. Like, I just saw a video on the trending page yesterday of these Viners, these YouTube, Instagram, so-called comedians. They're not at all comedians. Like Lele Pons and what's her name? I don't know, all her friends. They make videos and they have like a team that actually like does their whole makeup and their whole like, it's a whole like high profile production company. And you see it and it's like, this is the most horrible shit ever. It's so not funny. It's not, there's like zero amount of talent there. But if you get a good camera, you get some good camera angles, you get some good music, you get some attractive people, and that's all that matters. That's how shallow people are. It doesn't matter like what's going on within the story. It's just, it doesn't matter. So anyway, this Justin Bieber video, those YouTubers did a lyric video over that song, and in that song they're talking about flat earthers. They actually mentioned something about real facts, and flat earthers basically don't know what real facts are. So yeah, but that was on the trending page of YouTube. So like this it's you know that they know. And if you know that they know, or it knows, then you know that it is going to create a system to deal with whatever it is that you're talking about. So, if you know that, what is your contingency plan there? Because yelling at how wrong they are, knowing that they know they're wrong, knowing that they are defending themselves against you, you are playing checkers if you're just yelling. When they're in a 3-tiered chess game, at best, once they start acknowledging flat earth even more so, you're going to be playing chess now. But it's still a linear excuse me. It's still a linear chess game that the system wants you to pay attention to, like to keep you engaged. But when I talk about the 3-tier chess game for your soul, your mind, and your body, that's a completely different realm of interpreting what's really going on here. So, like I said, these people who are just making you emotionally triggered by chemtrails and all this other stuff, they're making you, well, you're making yourself if you really buy into it, because like I said, it's a stepping stone and nobody can change you. It's up to you. But those systems, for people who do it on purpose, like Alex Jones, obviously, it's putting you in a space that locks you into the checker game. And when you're locked into a checker game, you're not going to be efficient at playing chess. And you sure as hell ain't going to know nothing about the 3-tiered chess game. So, flat earth is grassroots. All the politics, grassroots. Globalists, grassroots. Reptilians, grassroots. David Icke, aliens, UFOs, New Age community, even the Black conscious community. It's the Black conscious community is grassroots, but it's the introduction to tree roots for that demographic. And it's not even their demographic; it's our demographic. But since, like I said before, the information is packaged in a way that is, so it's like packaging tree roots in a box of grass roots. That's what these mainstream truther communities are. Packaging tree roots in grass roots. And that's what, like, this whole 9/11 thing is, when you don't acknowledge the fact that this was stolen land. When you don't acknowledge the broken treaties, you don't acknowledge the psychology behind Christopher Columbus is what sets the foundation for the psychology of 9/11. So if you are talking about 9/11, you're talking about the psychology of evil, the psychology of separation, destruction, control, authority. Where did that begin? Well, obviously it didn't begin with Christopher Columbus, but when you're talking about the new world, you're talking about, that's what this whole thing, it's just like smart water, smart meters, smart technology, smart this, smart that. It's the same thing as the new world, the New Testament, manifest destiny, this new age. Everything that is new not only makes you worship the thing that's new, but it makes you demonize that which is old. And that's what doesn't get paid attention to inherently when people invest all their energy in the grassroots truth that's boxed in a very shallow version of reality. So let me see what I was going to get into, because I don't want to miss these pieces. Yeah, I already mentioned Allegedly Dead. If you haven't seen it, I'll link his video in the description. Thanks again to Dave for making that video, because it was on point. I don't have the same belief systems of everything in that video, but the overall intent and the storyline that was in there was on point. And it's a hell of a lot more than a lot of these people are talking about. In fact, they're scared of. And that's why I said in the last video, people are scared to talk about a lot of this information. And that fear, like I said, is actually the most destructive program that's out there. And since people are afraid and people are out there, like they're public figures, they hide that fear with this idea of truth, this idea of engagement. And that fear creates the space of everything is okay, the new age, everything is fine. We just need to do this, when ultimately it's not going to do anything but the same thing that happened before. So where am I at now? New Testament, New World Order, New Age, the New World, Christopher Columbus, new name, same game. And yeah, I mentioned the victimization. So like just as Catholic guilt is used to guilt people into religion, like, oh, you're born in sin, so take your sin away by going to church. Well, another version of that same style of protection for itself is the way like Christianity. So you can see how that's a slick ass way to trick people in. And that's another thing. Why are you needing to trick people in to something like that? What if you're using trickster magic to do that, then something else is going on there. But that's the style of that whole system. Another style of that system is to victimize itself, that I'm realizing now, recently. A lot of these Christian flat earthers, or even just Christians in particular, they say, well, the government is against Christianity. They're against Jesus. So that means you should be for Christianity. You should be for Jesus, because if you're for Christianity and Jesus, then that means you're against the system. So join our team, join our spiritual battalion or whatever it is. And then, so it's victimizing itself. When you go into that, it's like, oh yeah, Christians are so attacked. The Bible is so attacked. Jesus is so attacked. They play like they like it, but it's so attacked. It's actually the Jews and all this other stuff. It's so attacked that you should just join our team. And then, yeah, you know what I mean. So their version of God is the best version of God, and yours is just shit. I already talked about that. Guilt. And then the believers. That's pretty much what I wanted to get into. But ultimately, like I said, what this boils down to is like your passion. Where are you focusing your energy? So your emotional body is like the skin around your passionate body. So your passion is what naturally comes from the inside. But your emotional body kind of like it's relative to your passion. And what happens in a shallow society with shallow people, they mistake emotion for passion. And when you mistake emotion for passion, it's kind of like mistaking the ego for who you are. Now, these are parts of who you are. It's an expression of who you are. So once you get caught up in the parts or the expressions of who you are, you don't allow yourselves to get into naturally who you are. So this is why the system has to create all of these distractions of who people actually are based upon their actions, based upon their history. This is why the real history has to be hidden. All of this stuff has to be hidden from you. And you have to be locked into an idea of reality that has nothing to do with your empowerment. Like, you don't need 200 proofs. Like, even that alone, you don't need 200 proofs of the globe being fake. Like, you just need a few, or even just like this, like just one, like get people thinking. Because once you start getting into the everything that's involved in that world, that's when you're creating another skin suit. You're creating another thing. It's like, oh, I'm so efficient in this. I'm so like amazing. And this is how it is. It's like, yeah, okay. It's different. But are you losing something? Usually you are. So these are just slides that are giving you examples of, you know, how the system, how diverse the system is in controlling you and creating authority over you and distracting you from how jacked up things really are. You don't really get into, you know, why and how things are if you're so enveloped in what is going on or who is telling you what's going on. These are layers of consciousness that we get locked into. And I'm gonna cut this video off now because I think the video has stopped, but I don't want to repeat myself anymore. Just wanted to emphasize what I've been saying on this channel, what I said in the last video. Give a shout out to allegedly Dave for that video, because that information, like when you're talking about flat earth, like I said, you're talking about the authority to, you know, control and kill people, massacre, genocide people. What is this system trying to protect with heliocentrism? What is it trying to protect by separating you from your soul, mind, body relationship, the Most High, nature, destroying nature? What is it actually doing? And like I said, And like Asata Shakur said in here, if you're deaf, dumb, and blind to what's happening in the world, you're under no obligation to do anything. But if you know what's happening and you don't do anything but sit on your ass, then you're nothing but a punk. So people sit on their ass talking about, oh, I'm a truther. But they only talk about microwave truth, top ramen truth, McDonald's drive-through truth. You might as well just sit your punk ass down, because you're doing the same. And like I said, point being, and I'm going to close it out on this, the people who are completely unaware of this information, they're not as big as a threat to the people who are half or misinformed about this information. Because the people who are just completely oblivious to what's going on, they're not going to do much of anything, because they are either too afraid or don't know what to do. But the people who are half and misinformed are actually going to be the ones who are guiding you into the next mind control program, because they are the ones who are telling you, this is what we need to do, this is how it needs to be done, this is such and such and such and such. This is what the flat earth community is doing, Black Conscious, New Age, TYT, Alex Jones, conspiracy communities. These are all stepping stones for you to figure this shit out for yourself. So, yeah, I'll leave it there. Thank you again for all the support on this channel. Thank you again to Allegedly Dave for putting that video out and making people think about, something else that is very much a part of this conversation. But people want to act like it's not. You want to act like it's not as much as you want. There's a deadline to your ignorance. Eventually, it's kind of like how people don't want to pay attention to anything until it goes on the news or TV. Well, people in the so-called truther community are doing that shit with the relationship between Western so-called civilization and the indigenous people. Like, oh, it's not real until, the TV talks about it. So if like any of these headliner flat earthers start talking about it, oh, then that's a big deal. Now we got to talk about it. No, you're aware. If you're aware, then you have a responsibility. People gonna call you out on that shit. So thank you for joining me. Apologize for the sound, for the background, and my coughing throughout this, but I had to get this off my chest and really put this information out, because, yeah, it's real. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for the support. And until next time, from all my relations, peace, love, and harmony.